everyone. Welcome to Moonbeam Musings. I'm Filzie. I'll be your host for this YouTube channel and podcast. So, I wanted to introduce myself. Firstly, this is the first time I've done anything like this podcast, YouTube, been kind of present on the internet. And I expect that I'm kind of being quite 80s with my background right now, if you can see my background, but never mind. I just wanted to talk about what I'm doing here. And really, it's been a passion project, this, which is that there's lots of reasons that I want to do this podcast. And this podcast is about folklore, mysteries, myths, and anything else I find interesting, to be quite honest with you. And I have so many interesting friends and family, and I wanted to give them a platform to talk about some of these things, tell us what they're doing, and also to have conversations, interesting conversations with people. You know, for many years, I've had these wonderful conversations with many people, and I think it's interesting to be able to share those with you. So, now, what's my motivation for running this? Well, it's because when I was younger, I was absolutely obsessed with the ride A Small World. I went to Florida when I was about 5. I went to Disney World, and I went on the ride, and I thought it was amazing. And I've always really loved people, and I've always really loved other cultures and been very open to other cultures and belief systems. So much so that over the years, I've studied many languages, I've lived in several countries, and I just find culture and traditions and rituals really fascinating. And I wanted to explore that a bit more. Also, although I was brought up in a Christian household, I was also brought up in a very spiritual household. Now, my parents were actually separated, and both of them were very spiritual. And when I was younger, my father not so much, but my mother was. And the sort of thing where she would know who was on the phone before it rang. And my grandmother used to tell me she was a healer, all these sorts of things. And back then, it wasn't as well known. I was introduced to spirituality by my aunt, who herself is a television presenter and actress. And she introduced me to mind, body, spirit, as it was called back then, I believe. It was a festival that was in London and it still runs today. It may be called Mind, Body, Soul now. And so she took me when I was about 9, and I was very interested in the concept of it. I found that around the healers, I'd feel quite nauseous. So I've always had very strong reactions to things, sound or anything like that. So I remember reading the Celestine Prophecy when it came out when I was quite young. That's sort of where I'm coming from and why I wanted to talk to really interesting people about some great topics. I will say that one of the drivers as well of this is that in later years, my grandmother, who partly brought me up when I was at my father's house, she died when I was about 23. And my father was absolutely devastated, obviously. And so he got in touch with a medium and ended up channeling my grandmother through a medium to write a book on mysteries, which I will refer to throughout this podcast and YouTube channel. So we will delve into some of the things that he learned, and that includes how the pyramids were built, also Jack the Ripper, and topics such as that, which are really interesting. So not everyone on my show will be a researcher, actually. Often they will be people who have an interest in the subject, and these are conversations. So conversations with different people around these different topics. We will refer to some of the experts. We will put resources in the description, but we will be having open conversations about, you know, the pyramids, megaliths, Filipino folklore. You know, there's some great and really interesting YouTubes and podcasts coming up. So I'm super excited to be here. I hope that some of you find this interesting and you want to listen to it. That would be great. And also lovely to hear from you in the comments as well and get some feedback. And if you yourself are really interested in a topic and you want to come on the podcast as well, do contact me. That would be great to have you. Yeah, I think that's my main motivation, and I just wanted to introduce myself. So I'm Filzie. I look forward to being on this journey of exploration with you all. So take care, and over and out. Thank you. Bye.